hearing is what we experience, and also because maybe the unit that we receive is a much newer model. I think Claudio was saying that it came with a full
Yeah,
box.
so I think for the like when you're seeing some of the YouTubers and all that and the filmmakers in the States, they may have received a pre-production unit, whereas and it came in a what do you call it, a box with no printing, just the camera and some wires and all that. But this I believe is a production set already. So it's something that eventually those of you all who actually pre-order or planning to pre-order, this is it. So later, I know a lot of you all ask questions about overheating and stuff like that. We're going to go through it because I actually went out to test in Singapore, hot and humid in Singapore, to see whether it works here. And surprisingly, it works fine. So I'm going to talk a bit about the overheating later as well.
Yeah, I think overheating is the first question everybody has, and I think maybe we can start off. I think we're ready to start. I mean, anybody else want to say something?
Any questions, guys, before we...
Ryan is on his iPhone. Mezame is here. Where is Lance? Does Lance want to say something? Lance don't want to say anything, is it? What? It's very strange talking to myself now. It's worse. At least when I do my Facebook live stream, there are some people typing. So, is it because you are typing then I cannot see? Trying to navigate being a host as well as doing the slides at the same time. But I think Claudio will be good to start.
Yep.
Okay, so great. Hello, good evening, everybody. My name is Nicholas Chee, and my co-host today will be Claudio.
Yeah.
And he's dying to do this like a Nick and Claudio show. So we are trying this instead of being in two separate windows. So he's here at my studio. And we're here to basically share our experience about the A7S III and how old is this camera? How long have we been waiting since A7S II?
Well, from the time that I had the S2 was 5 years really, since it launched, five-ish. I had the S2 for a while before I eventually sold it. And I still love that camera. It's just that, it's times of catching up with it already, But for a videographer like me, usually when we work in like 1 or 2 men's sort of scenario, right, or even a small crew, the S2 was perfect for us. Yeah, but of course it started to show its age the moment the third generation of series of cameras came out.
Right. So, I am, let me take my camera out. So just to verify that we are actually really Sony users, this is my own. I'm on an A7R II. You are?
So primarily I have the A7 III as well as the A7R3. So this is the third generation of R3 models, if you can see.
Why is my R2 looking newer than your R3?
Well, this R3 has gone with me for many commercial shoots, some outdoor ones, and it has been quite a challenge. I dropped it a few times. It went to Sony Servicing Center many times already. So you can see it's really gone through. My A9 is even worse.
Really?
Yeah, my A9 is even worse.
Okay, so looks like you are actually going to use the A7S III when you get your hands on your unit. I hear that they are not going to allow you to buy first. Other people can buy first. Right?
No. I think I can buy as well. I mean, all of us are able to buy as well. That's the reason why we have this session, with Cathay. But I think the main thing is that if you are a serious video person, and that's what we're going to share today, right? This is going to be the camera for you, I know there's some questions that ask whether this is for hybrid shooters and all that stuff. I'm going to address some of that towards the midway segment of the class as well, or the workshop as well.
Yeah. So Claudio, you basically do stills and photography. Stills and video. What am I saying?
Yeah. So I think you have probably seen, right? Nick does a lot of filmmaking. He's in the production. I work with people like him a lot when we are doing ads and films and all that stuff. Myself, I'm more in the advertising and public relations line. So I'm a creative actually by heart. So I usually come up with the scripts or the story for friends like Nick to help produce, the thing. But I do shoot myself as well. So I was doing a lot of, as any photographer, any videographer we started a lot in weddings, right, and events, right. But I started to move into more serious sort of productions, but not big scale productions. Usually 1 to maybe 5-man crew, right. And I realized that a small camera like the S2 at the time and the A7R III or the A7 III, which I use primarily for these smaller shoots, have been pretty useful for my type of gigs. But of course, there are certain times where we may need bigger cameras or cine cameras and whatnot. Which is why the A7S III, with all the rumors back then, right? I mean, you can see the S3 here right now with the flip-up screen that everybody's waiting for, right? Has been a game changer. And I think, Nick, you and I, we have been testing it for the past week or so, right? I think you probably, as a filmmaker, you have some thoughts about it as well.
I really think that this time around, Sony has really listened to the filmmakers. I mean, I would think that a lot of the vloggers have pushed the boundaries of filmmaking. I mean, they are really pushing cameras to a limit where they are making serious high-end videos. Right? So what next then if the Alpha 6000 series can really achieve? So this camera really has to reach a next level.
Yep.
And I think it really has, because I think a lot of us have been waiting for a 422 10-bit camera.
Yes.
And this is now in the A7S III. And also, I think we were quite concerned whether our computers can deal with it. So one of the questions was, are the files very heavy? Is it going to be very hard?
Which we'll talk about later as well, right?
Yeah. So I think what we can do is we can move to the next slide.
Just to show you the agenda.
Yeah.
The timing is a bit off, so as in the time we set aside, it's not fixed. But I think the main thing is to let you all see, you know what. So I think we already gone through a bit of a brief introduction and some of the initial thoughts, right? But I think there are 5 key areas that Nick and I are probably going to talk about today, right? Firstly, is this the new king of low light, right, in the mirrorless world, right? Or even, you know, in the camera world right now, because the S2 had that title for quite some time, right? And you know, S now stands for Supreme according to Sony, no longer sensitivity as it used to be called, right? So is it the king of low light? We got some sample footages to show you that we have been testing. Secondly is heat management. So unfortunately, I don't have any images to show you because this is really on the field test, but I'm going to talk a bit about my experience with it in the park. The third thing is ergonomics. So we're just going to change camera angle later to let you see how it looks like. And we're going to touch a bit about the changing of the record button, the manual system, which I think Nick loves. I also quite love it, which is why I had a bit of difficulty adjusting back to my current set of cameras, right? Then we're going to talk a bit about the codec and the bitrate, which is 10-bit 422. But even within 10-bit 422, there are multiple different options of 4K, you know. So that's something that's very important as well, right? That we're going to talk about as well. And then lastly, we're going to talk about S-Log now. Last time people say, oh, S-Log very hard to grade, right? Is it the case now with the new codec? And how do we grade it? Then how do we do color correction? Is how far can we push the ISO, right? Yep. So that's that, and then we're going to take some Q&A as well from your. But you're going to see a lot of the camera today because we're going to switch between the slide as well as our own handheld. Yeah, so you can see on the screen now. If you can make it like in between, you know, so you can see both us in the screen as well as the slides.
So I think let's go to the first point. King of low light. I'll let the Mumbo Prince tell you if this. I still am struggling to find another camera besides the A7S II that is really at this level, that's designed for low light capture. For 2 and 3, what has it been different for you?
Okay, so I haven't actually had the S2 for a while now, ever since I saw
what you can recall.
Yeah. I really like the S2, the fact that, like, I mean, there are certain times when you're shooting certain content, right, that doesn't allow, like, a professional lighting crew to come in, right? Or I can't even take out a small light, you know, like, for example, if you're going to do, like, some wildlife stuff, you know, you don't want to take out light, right, and then alarm the animal or whatnot. And then certain times in challenging areas, like let's say you are an event videographer and you're shooting in a club, for example, right? Certain areas are pretty dark and the light is all over the place, right? How does it adapt to some of these places where it's very dark and then you go to a bright place suddenly, right? So I think at least for my case, when you will see in the sample video next, right? Maybe Nick, you want to just click in to see the sample video. Yeah. So this, right, before we play, right, what I did was this. I wanted to show you the ISO push of the A7S II, and basically, right, this was, as you can see, most of the videos that we're going to show you here, right, at the bottom right hand corner, you'll be able to see the settings that I actually shot in. And most of it have been, because after all, we're going to be talking a lot about 4K, right?
Yep.
I wanted to, I mean, Nick and I, when we shot with the camera, a lot of things was done in 4K in the different codecs, right? This was done in no picture profile and standard color, creative style, right?
So out of the box, you just turn it on and you
This
don't
is
do
it.
it. Okay,
Yeah,
this
no
is
picture profile. And you can see as I push the ISO up, which is the, so if we just play this video, right, this is at like ISO 80, right? So then as the video starts to move along, right, is it playing?
Yeah, it's playing.
Oh yeah, it's playing. So you see, that's my wife actually. So this is at ISO 1000. Okay, still underexposed, right? So we're trying to do manually to see which is the correct exposure, right? So as you push up, you can see, oh, this is ISO 6400.
Wow.
Very clean,
Wow.
right? Pretty clean still, right? And we even push it up further to make it like the sweet spot. So this is ISO about 10,000. Okay, maybe a bit overexposed already. But
this is like daytime really.
yeah, so I push it up even further. This is ISO 32,000.
Okay.
And then 64,000. Okay, this is overexposed by I think 2 stops already.
Right.
Right, and then we push it even more. This is 100 and 1204, and now it's 25600. It's like super bright now. Right, and
I'm
then,
only starting to see a bit of noise. That's it.
yeah, so
And
you
the
start to see noise
tone
really,
shadows,
right?
yeah.
And then this is the max, 409600. I mean, on Zoom, right, there's some compression, right?
Sure.
But if you actually see the files itself, the raw 4K files that come out of the camera, right? Noise handling for no picture profile, right? Just creative styles like this, right? It's actually pretty good, right? So right now, yeah, I saw some comment. Guo Xing said it looks like heaven now.
Yeah. No, that's because your wife is there.
So it looks like heaven now. Yeah. So actually, for non, right? I mean, later we're going to talk a bit about it as well. Some reviewers have really tested the camera to see, is there really like what dual ISO, which is usually found on more professional cine cameras, right?
So, but before you go there, I want to ask you
Yeah.
this question: what is the realistic ISO settings you would personally want to be using it?
So
Like this is obviously a bit too far off. We saw 16,000 was quite good.
yeah,
10
so
to 16,000
I
for
think-
night shots.
Yes, so I think even with okay, this is just my interpretation, okay. Because later Nick, he and our DOP, right, we actually shot something in S-Log, right?
Yep.
Later we will show you, and it's pretty good, right? The color rendition and all
Yeah.
that stuff. But I think for standard profile, let's say you are the type of videographer that does not want to do a lot of color grading. You know, you just want to use it out of the box. And I believe some of you have watched like Brandon Lee's video, right? He shot in standard, like exactly like
Standard,
this.
yeah.
The good range, right? I would say the max you push, right, can actually be about 8 to 10,000. It's fine. It's actually pretty clean.
That's my experience as well. Yeah.
So I think it's pretty clean. For S-Log, right? I actually shot up to 20,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And later you see in the video, I have some still grabs at 16,000. Apparently it reset, so that's why they say like there's a dual ISO thing, right? But it's very clean at 16,000.
Okay.
20,000 is very clean as well. I have some stills to show you, like screen grabs from the video, lah. So later we will see as well, lah.
Okay. So officially, Sony doesn't say whether it's dual or not dual, but what we can say is between the transition at the higher ISO, the steps, it's actually very smooth. It's not like a sudden.
It's pretty, I would say, pretty smooth. Not say super smooth, lah, you know, but it's pretty smooth, lah. But you can see a bit of difference at, let's say, like 12,000 and 16,000.
Okay, 12 and 16 is where you start to see.
Yeah, so 12 there's a bit more noise in maybe S-Log, but if you go back to 16,000, then you start to see it become cleaner again.
Okay, but does that affect in terms of the picture details?
Later you see.
Okay.
Later I got some still grabs. Then
Okay.
we can see that as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. Let me.
Yeah.
Wait,
I mean,
let
guys,
me
you can
see.
keep your question going, right? We will answer them towards the end as well. I know some of you are asking about dual ISO, and what it means for hybrid shooters like yourself, right? We will cover that towards the end during the Q&A section. So feel free to ask your questions here, and we will come to that later as well, lah.
Okay, cool. Okay, do we go to the next slide?
So again, I think the other thing about the videos, right, is tracking, right? So I think with the ZV-1 recently, right, you know, there's a touch tracking thing, and it's also present now in the A7S III. And I decided to try it out, lah, you know, no touch and touch as well, lah, right? And both works. right? So if you see the next set of videos, right, again, I did it at a few different frame rates just to see whether it works, right? So this is at, you see, I really push this ISO 8000,
Okay.
right? So yeah, you can just play it like
Play, yeah.
it's 3 videos, right? So this is at 25 frames per second, right? I mean, focus locking, you can actually shift the sensitivity. This is out of the box,
Okay.
right?
So what that means is you can make it track very fast or more gradual.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is at 50 frames per second. Everything I output at 25 lah, okay? So you can see this is at ISO 3002, right? It hunted a bit, to be honest, right? But then again, that's because of the way I set my sensitivity levels.
yeah. I won't call it hunting. Hunting will be on off on
Yeah.
off. I think it just slowly comes in. It's
Yeah.
more organic.
That part where it was in focus, then it suddenly lose a bit and comes back again.
Yeah.
But you actually can fix it in the camera as
Okay.
well, just the settings. And then this is 100 frames per second.
Okay. A lot more slower.
More slower, a bit more noise now because you see it's like almost 10,000 already,
Yep.
right? ISO 10,000, but she's pretty sharp still. You see, as she walks to the camera,
Yep.
the focus is locked in, right? And then she holds there, right? And the focus holds most of the time.
Right.
Yeah. And this is in very challenging low light situations. I mean, if you were there, it's darker than this, but like I said, this is the king
Yeah.
of low light in that sense, right? So
Right.
it makes everything feel brighter
Yeah.
than it actually is. Yeah, and there's nothing touch in post. This is right out of the camera.
This is out of the camera.
Yeah, so there's no I didn't dial any exposure setting. I did not do anything on set as well to do shift the exposure down, nothing. Straight out, zero exposure down. I just wanted to let y'all see how it is, footage it is. Yeah.
So this is basically what we call cook footage. So in video, the log will be the raw
Yes.
versus this is like the JPEG of it.
Like the
So
JPEG
it's
lah, yeah.
of course, its own internal processing will try to give you the best pleasing image, and then there'll be some compromise. So obviously, if you shoot it in a locked situation, you will get much better quality because you can control in terms of the noise profile afterwards, right?
Yeah.
Which afterwards you will see the thing.
So I mean, there was this thing from DP Review, right, about the dual ISO thing, right? This is from their test, lah. This is, I mean, Sony has not mentioned it officially per se, but a lot of vloggers and content creators have been sharing this around,
Sure,
right?
right.
So like base ISO, if you have standard picture profile, off, right, you can start at 80, right? But you will start to gain noise, then suddenly it has a second step gain again at ISO 2000.
Okay.
Right, so that's why I say for safe gauge, right, for videographers, right, would be to keep it like maybe 8,000 to 10,000 if you're shooting in standard. If you want like really crisp video, right, you can push it all the way. 20,000 is fine still.
Right.
Just that if you want to keep it safe, right, I think 8 to 10K is the max you should go.
Yeah.
For S-Log, it resets at 16,000 apparently. And later we'll show you some footages from there as well.
Yeah, I personally feel that I like it at about 3.2 to 5 to 6,004 kind of
The range, right?
The range,
Actually,
yeah.
quite clean. Later, actually, Nick, myself, we went out to do a short film.
Yeah.
And you will see later, it's in that range, and it's very clean, the image.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Okay. If you have questions regarding that, you can just continue to chime into the chat box. We'll do the Q&A afterwards so that we can have the flow a bit more better. But let's go to the hot potato. Literally the hot potato, or the topic that everyone is talking about.
So, I mean, this camera that I have here, right? So, I had the opportunity, right? If you can see, or is it?
Let me switch to the top camera.
So, it's actually designed quite nicely. You can see the body is bigger as well. Everything is bigger, right? Later we're going to talk about ergonomics, which I'll show it. But the main thing is, when I actually went out to the park to shoot, just to let the camera record, like non-stop, right? Like just to record the camera non-stop. And what I realized was that for about an hour, okay, so the other thing is you need to have memory cards that is able to record at 4K, 120 frames, 10 bit.
Okay.
Which I will talk about later as well, or Nick and I will share about. But basically, if you have a 64 gig memory card, like your current memory cards, right, you won't be able to record at 4K, 120 frames per second because of limitations, right, of the codec. But what I did was I really want to do that, so I went to the park. I leave it on recording for about an hour and 10 minutes. Thereabout. Of course, there's no footage because it's just stationary pointing at the park, right? What I realized was that it started to heat up, yes, like any other camera, because this is a very small body after all, if you compare it to like bigger broadcast or cine cameras, right? But the thing is that it did not get to the point of like it's so hot that I cannot touch it. You know, like I can still touch it lah. It's just that here, this part of the body gets pretty hot, right? The thing is, never in that 1 hour or so did I receive a overheating warning.
Okay, so 70 minutes
70 minutes.
of continuous
4K
rolling,
100 frames. Yeah.
4K at 100 frames, which means the processing would have been very intensive
Yes.
because you need to do that.
But what I tell you, the memory card really burns through it lah. Because if you see, if you shoot at 25 frames at 4K, ready, right? It's about even with 64 gig V90 card, right? It's really about 50 minutes of time recording time only.
Yeah.
So in that one, and that's at the lowest sort of 4K
Bitrate,
codec and bitrate. Right, so if you go up to that 120 frames, like the time amount of memory card space you need is actually a lot.
So
But
what were you using? Like 128?
I was using 256.
256.
But V90 cards. It's not cheap lah, right?
Okay.
But the thing is, it recorded fine, but the memory card became very hot lah.
So were you at any point worried that your card was going to melt first?
Yes, I was a bit worried that the card was going to die, but I mean, we have the tough cards, the Sony tough cards, so they are pretty good cards. You can withstand the heat lah, you know. But I mean, right after it, I took it out of the camera, the cards immediately, and then I felt like it was really hot.
Okay.
Yeah, but then again, it's at 4K,
Sure.
100 frames.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
But it's not. It's to be fair. Nobody really shoots it that way.
Yes.
For us, when we shoot films, our takes are, we do a lot of takes, and then each take will not be very long,
Yeah.
like in terms of minutes, sometimes in terms of seconds.
Yeah.
Because we cut anyway. So, but under what circumstances do you think you'll be shooting? I think people who do the wildlife, maybe they're camping, they're waiting for the action, which is why you went outdoor to test the.
Yeah.
So I think we have some birder friends who are asking about settings with this, and I feel that if you can shoot 4K 100 frames, you're probably going to capture a lot of good action.
Yeah.
Waiting for action for the birds and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
I think the other thing is, I mean, we always talking about 4K, right? But this camera actually shoots HD at 240 frames now.
Yep.
So that's something that I think for our friends who like to go out to shoot birds or wildlife or animals, or even kids, like your kids running around and all that, right? Or shoot, you're an event videographer that cover a lot of fast movements, right? This could be a pretty good video camera in that sense for it. Yeah.
Okay, so we touched on heat management. I think low light and heat. Let's move on to the third thing. I think a lot of people want to know in terms of the ergonomics.
Yeah. Nick, you had to play with the camera for. What's your thoughts on it?
Okay, first and foremost, I need to tell you that this was really important for me. This screen, this new design of the screen.
Yeah, definitely.
We really use this a lot. I think if you're a vlogger, you want to be able to see your image, but we don't really do it this way. For us, being able to shoot in a way that we can control the screen depending on where the sun or LED light is coming from actually helps a lot.
Yeah.
So that you don't have to use a hood or use a shade all the time. Pretty much sometimes you just need to be able to do a bit of angling, not just top down, but also in and out a little bit. Sometimes you're shooting in terms of awkward angles as well. For example, you're shooting, camera is this way, there are times when you're shooting in small tight spaces.
Yeah.
You want to be able to see the monitor or what you're shooting. But of course, these days, we can say that, let's just do a wireless feed out to something else. But a lot of people are thinking in the way that they start to add. Small camera becomes a big camera. You might as well start with a big camera. So I think this is, for me, by far the most important. And I really like the balance and the weight and the grip. For my hands, I think they're just nice. I think for me,
Compared to the third generation and then the second generation, right?
The A7R2 grip is a little bit too shallow.
Too shallow, yeah.
Too shallow. And for some reason, this one feels really good on the hands.
Maybe we can switch the camera and then we compare the tree, right?
Yeah.
So this is like we're just going to switch the camera around.
Switch the camera.
So you can see this is the middle is the R3, and then this is the R2, the R3, and then the A7S III, right?
Yeah.
So the S2 was in this model, right, of shape or form, right? And
Yep.
then the third generation of cameras, which was the A7 III and the A7R III, was this. So you can see, right? I know this is not the best way to do it, but I'm just going to show you. So you can see that the tree actually had a substantial sort of difference, here,
Yeah.
right?
I
And
think if you tilt
yeah.
up this way, you can see in terms of the grip.
Yeah, so you see all three, right? The grip actually, this is small, this is a bit moderate, and then this is, you can see, wow, the difference from this to this is actually very substantial
Yeah.
already. Yeah, so I think the grip really helps in that sense, yeah.
Yeah. What other points in terms of the
Maybe,
ergonomics for you?
yeah, Nick, you just maybe put on the next slide, right?
Yeah, let's go to the next slide.
Yeah. Before, no, you change camera. I think this camera is good. Yeah. So the thing about this is that you can see that this record button is now here.
Yeah, our friend says thick. Yeah, it's quite thick, Henry.
Yeah, it's thick, definitely.
But it feels good in the hands. That I can assure you.
I mean, the record button is here now instead of like the C1. So this is the third generation. C1 is here, right? You see my thumb, right? The C1 is now shifted to where the record button is on the third generation of cameras. So the record button is no longer here. So they swap places. So I'll be honest with you, when I first got it, and Nick and I first got it, we had a bit of like keep pressing one button.
Because this is your custom, right? What is your C1?
My C1 is focus. Yeah. So you can set it to record as well.
Yeah,
it's just that I've been so used to pressing here that I was actually had some issues like at the start. But after a while I got back to used to it. Then now I go back to my older cameras, I get a bit luan again.
You know, funny, I am used to the record actually at my thumb. This is the
the second generation, the S2.
I think this is a nice touch for me. So for you, this was a issue. So generally, it's still a C1 button, but default record. What do you have? Yeah.
Oh no. Thanks Mes for Mezame for explaining. Yeah, you can actually shift the slides accordingly or zoom to see our screen as big as possible as well. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, those are the three the cameras in that sense, right? The three cameras. But I think the thing that we want to talk about is also the EVF.
Yeah.
So if you compare, right, I'm going to bring it up, right? Look at the EVF, it's massive, The EVF is massive. Yeah. So there's something, right, that the EVF now has, I think, more dots than the R4, which is actually a stills camera.
Are you seeing it like you're seeing through glass?
Feels like it.
Okay.
Yeah, it feels. You can tell a substantial difference between this generation and this generation of EVF, and also the monitor feels better. Also, the screen behind, because there was now that I look at both the viewfinder and this, right, the colors seem to be more matching. But previously, right, it's like if you shoot on the S2 or the A7 III, the colors don't tend to match.
Okay.
So then a lot of times, if you don't have an external, if you want to look at whether it's really locked or the white balance is set correctly, you end up having to look through the viewfinder.
Okay. Are you a viewfinder person or LCD person?
For video, most of the time I will use this But that's the reason why I was very happy with this, because right now I don't need to attach an external monitor if I'm running and gunning.
Right.
Yeah. So then this helps me. The color accuracy is much better here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Do I have links? Yes, I have a link. No, we are going to show you in a bit. Then I will share the YouTube as well. The video is inside there.
Yeah.
But let me figure out
Yeah.
if I can type on this. But
maybe later we address some of this stuff.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. So I think the next thing that we wanted to share also is this. Like I said, the record button and the deeper grip that Nick already shared, right? But the other thing about this ergonomics thing is this. Okay, so I'm going to switch on now.
Wait, I think people want to see our face.
Oh.
I show a bit of our face, okay?
Yeah, and so you can see right now that this is the new manual system.
Yeah. Oh my God! Like this
Right?
is.
Can you see the new manual system?
This is so important.
Right, and I think the reason why we did not want to play a video on the PowerPoint deck, right, is because I wanted to let you all see that right now, you instead of just shifting this up and down, you can actually tap here to change the settings.
Oh wow! Finally.
I want to proxy recording, for example, I can click the back here as well. I can change the settings here, and I can just slide up and down as well.
Oh, I didn't.
Yeah, you can.
I didn't play with the slide. I up and down I still use. So I use a combination of the dial plus touch.
Yeah, so it's pretty, and you can just switch, like instead of pressing the menu button all the way back, to go back, right? Let's see, here you can just click back here. And
Oh my God! Yes.
Right.
the menu going back is something that I was struggling with.
Yeah. So this is pretty awesome. If you switch from photo to video mode, okay, so default out of the box, right? Because the S3 is a video camera, like, it's very video focused, right? It's already set on video mode. Okay, even the settings here, right? You see here is the first setting is no longer like how it is on the previous cameras. It's actually video focused.
Okay.
So if you click on the first menu system, so you see image quality, right, and file format, right? It goes into video settings and not photo settings.
Okay, so it talks about video. Okay.
Video is very video. You can change to JPEG and all that later under the other settings here. You know, you can actually go into media and then switch your settings and files.
What if you set it to photo? Yeah, on the dial. So let's say you go to manual mode.
Yeah, so it will take photos.
And then you go to menu.
Yeah, the menu it will switch back to photo.
Ah, okay, okay.
So this is something that
So this makes sense, right? So
Yeah.
depending on what mode you decide to be on, your menu corresponds.
yes. So this is really much better. Like right now, if you see, right, this is in actually photo mode, right? So you can switch to JPEG or
Okay, great.
or HEIF, you know, the new file format,
Right.
the more better compression and all
Highly
that.
efficient.
Yeah. So if you switch here, the dial, you switch the dial accordingly. Let's say back to video. Then when you click on menu, right, it goes into video settings already.
Perfect. I think this is exactly what everybody wanted, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think this is really something that is awesome. Mezame asked, right? So ID, I hope we at least share with you how, you know, when you switch and the menu actually changes. The response of the touchscreen with glove, okay, to be honest, neither Nick or I wore a glove to play with the camera. Yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe we should try. I think obviously this one, if you're going to colder places, you wear a glove. I believe there are gloves that are designed for touchscreen.
Yeah.
So like for your phones and stuff like that. So
Yes.
perhaps those will be.
Perhaps those will work.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
work.
But it works fine actually. I even put a screen protector because, you know, we were having some time with it, right? I thought, you know, just want to see whether if with a glass screen protector, the touch is still as sensitive as whatnot. It works fine.
Yeah.
Perfectly fine.
Very happy with the menu.
Yeah.
You were happy with the menu?
I think most of you all are happy with the menu system, right? So I think the menu system is something that is a game changer for the Alpha line. Yeah.
Right. Okay. What's up next?
Maybe you show you back the camera, right?
Okay.
So back to our faces.
Back to our faces, camera
Yes.
one. Okay.
Okay, so
Codec and bitrates.
this is something very big in the S3, right?
It's a big thing because they basically have the same 8-bit internal plus the same XAV and the two same flavors
Yes.
for the longest time. Suddenly now you go inside, I think we need to show them the flavors that's
Yeah.
available right now, right?
Yeah, maybe we're on the camera. Let me.
Yeah.
Okay, and Nick will change the camera settings as I go through because I've been playing with the menu the most.
Yeah, good to have two people.
Yeah, so you can see here, right? If it's under video now, right? Sorry, this is under video, right? And then if you go to file format, right? Right now under file format, what you actually see is a couple of different things now.
Yeah. So I used to only see two options,
Right? So last time you used to see only
2 or 4 options depending.
HD and then maybe
4K,
4K, right?
yes.
Now you have HDI, SIHD.
What is I?
So I is actually intra, right? Nick, you want to explain in detail like what is intra actually?
Okay, so from what I understand, intra means they are doing basically every single frame, every picture, right? So instead of recording changes, okay, once upon a time, for those of you who are a bit like trying to understand why is intra such a big deal, it's because storage and processing were not so powerful and not so big before. So what happens is the engineers understand when you record a scene, for example, a girl in a park
Yep.
with a tree by the side and the girl is moving. So instead of trying to record individual frames, all you need to do is record the difference.
Yep.
So the girl moves, so you record the girls. The tree doesn't move, for example, unless it is windy. So why sometimes when we shoot videos, we see that if the bitrate is not enough, when you have foliage, right?
Yeah.
It's always very jalat because it's
Pixelated,
pixelated and stuff like
noisy,
that.
yeah.
Okay, so in this case, the perfect world is like how film records. 25 or 24 frames per second. Each frame is one
Frame by
complete
itself,
picture.
yeah.
So you have the most information. But what happens is then you have maybe 10 double or even 4 times the amount of information. So intra basically means if you're shooting at 25 frames, you have 25 individual
Visual frames,
images.
yep.
Yeah, but of course that increases your storage.
Yeah, so I think we're going to show you here. So of course, then you have some of you are thinking, okay, there's now XAVC-S,
Yeah.
right? And then XAVC-HS.
Yes.
What's the difference? So basically, S is your standard 422, but now 10-bit. You can still shoot 8-bit, but I mean, if you're going to buy the S,
I mean, don't shoot 8-bit.
yeah lah. So then you can have 8-bit here, and then HS is actually H265, the new codec.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So let me just show you. If you shoot in the standard, which most of y'all will probably be shooting in as XAVC-S, right, 4K, and then if you go into media settings, right, this is where you start to see all the difference, right? So 50, 25, let's say 25, right? You click on 25, right, and then you can see this is the difference now. Last time this is the max you can go.
420
8-bit, right?
yes.
But now you can go to 420 10-bit.
Yeah, wow.
And of course, the file size increases by quite a fair bit, from like 100 megabits per second now is
140.
40, right? And it can go pretty crazy, right? So if you look at HS, right? Let's say we go to HS, okay? And then they'll tell you need a proper memory card.
This is a warning to
Yeah.
tell you, right?
So let's say it's at 50 frames, right? You see the size, right? Difference, right? It becomes 200 megabits per second already.
Oh, wow.
50 frames at 4K HS. And if you compare this to, for example, I, right? So just one more thing before we go on, right? S and HS actually record at the same bit rate. But according to Sony, and later we got some sample images as well, HS actually tends to record more information at a better compression.
Because this is H265.
Yes.
Yeah. But what is the sacrifice?
Yeah.
Your computing and your processing CPU power has to be one up. So if your computer is older generation Intel, then you'll be struggling quite a bit.
Yeah, so besides buying the camera, you need to make sure that your computer is...
Your CPU
Yeah.
or you have the very high-end GPUs to
Yes,
compensate
correct.
for that.
So that's something you need to know. And of course, if you talk about, let's say, right, I just go back again of this XAVC-S 4K, right? And then if you look at 50 frames per second, right? Sorry, I'm just going to go 50 frames, right? It's also 200, right? But if I actually go to I, which is intra at 4K, right? And add 50 frames per second, right? See the bit rate is now 500.
Wow.
Yeah. Right. So your settings becomes 500 now, and then your codec increases a lot.
Which basically means your shooting time decreases a lot.
Yes. So maybe Nick will change back. So I think this is something they need to take note of, right? I shooting on I, right, intra mode, right? An 10-second clip, right? My file size at 50 frames per second, right? It was almost 600 to 700 megabit already.
Wow.
Megabytes already, right? So if you don't have the storage space, right, I would suggest to just shoot at either HS or S itself. You know, the normal.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't need intra if you.
So what I think of this scenario is very simple. If you buy the A7S III today, the features in the codec and bit rates basically is a guarantee for you to use 2 or 3 or 4 years,
Yes.
because it takes time for the computing side and the storage to
reach that level.
reach a level.
Yeah.
So you don't actually have to push it to the max. You can, if you have the luxury of having all the latest equipment, especially in post-production, that's great. But what you can think about is you can get a high quality footage that in 1 or 2 years it will still be quite ahead of time.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's also discounting firmware upgrades, which I think might even increase the usability.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think Mausan, you asked, right? Can you record proxies? Yes, you can. Alfred, right? Later we got this chart in the next few slides that shows you what memory card you can record. But if you're going to buy an S3, I suggest you invest in the memory cards, because you want the 4-bit. You know, not 4-bit, you want the 10-bit 422 at the higher frame rates.
Yeah.
If you're going to use old memory cards, even the V10, right, cannot record at that memory at the 4K 100 frames per second. You can't, because now even S and Q, right, which is slow and quick, right, is at the same bit rate as standard. It's just no sound.
Right.
Yeah, so you really need that storage space. So if you're using older memory card, I'm sorry, Alfred, you may need to.
I think
invest lah.
V90 is the starting point
Yeah.
to think about. I believe by the end of the year, next year, we will see the CFA
Yeah.
cards coming. Right now, there's a.
I think you can pre-order them. I'm not sure whether it comes with the same time when the camera launches next month.
Yeah.
Hopefully it does, but if not, towards the end of the year or so, you'll start to see the CF Express cards available.
Yeah. So I think this is where we need to talk about as well. Why is this also forward? Sorry.
Too locked, is it too tight?
Jam.
Sorry. This thing always causes it. Yeah.
Okay. So
Let me change the camera.
it's the same sort of slot with top and bottom. So the bottom gap, right, is for you to for the CF. What's the official name for it?
CF Express Type A.
CF Express Type A.
Yeah.
Okay, CF, and which also means that
Yeah.
even if you can't get the cards now,
Yeah.
you can use your old
You can use your old
existing
cards.
SD cards.
It's just that you can't record at a higher
Highest,
bit rate.
yeah. So until
Yeah.
you can afford or it's
Yeah.
available and reach a price point that it's actually.
Yeah, let me actually take for you the memory card, because those are in the camera already. I'm going to show you what I mean. So, sorry guys. So you will need this sort of cards. So this is the tough card, right? The 64 gig, right? But of course you need higher, like 128 or 256. But you need a V90. And you see this here, V90?
Yep.
You definitely need a V90 card to be able to record the higher bit rates. Okay, so 64 gig, unfortunately, if you're going to shoot at 4K 120 frames, it only records about half an hour of footage, right? So ideally, if you're going to shoot at varying frame rates, right, you will need a series of what do you call it, a higher memory card lah.
Yeah, I think basically you need to start from 128 minimum
Yeah.
already lah.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we can move a little bit quicker now. So I hope this is just to let you guys
Yeah, I
know
think-
we are quite excited about the bit rates and the possibilities.
Maybe you go to the next slide first and could answer some of the guys' questions.
Yeah.
Also, this is actually your film, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's just play this clip.
Wait first. We just look at the question. Okay, so Leona asked, right? Thanks for sharing that it could be good for a long run with software upgrades. This is quite painful because we upgrade so many things within Footage. Will the best setup for editing a MacBook Pro? What would be best possible setup for editing? Leona, maybe you can share with us, right, how old is your MacBook Pro? Because if you are running the 2019 models, which is last year's models, it should be fine. But you will start to see some issues with the 2018 models.
Your 2000. Mine is 2016.
Yeah, so this 2019, the one I have,
Yeah.
because truth to be told, right, the H.265 footage runs better on my MacBook Pro than my iMac, because my iMac is a bit older,
Okay.
and because of the chips. But I could possibly like get an external GPU, you know.
Yeah, I swear by the external GPU, by the way, it really extends your laptop. Because if you're going with the laptop route, you want to be mobile,
Yeah.
you also want to work on the desk. Yeah, the
Correct.
external GPU is
So,
available.
because this is actually quite, I mean, you can still.
2015, is it the Thunderbolt 3 version? Because if yes, then officially eGPU is okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can still install eGPU to run the files now.
But I think we need to tell Leona that it's safe to say you don't always have to use the higher specs, because even if you do 422 10-bit, you can shoot at H.264.
Yes, correct. Or you don't do at let's say you don't shoot very high frame rates.
Yep.
You're shooting at 24, 25, right?
Yep.
It's actually okay, but it will still make your computer lag a bit. So what you need to do is whether internally
Proxy workflow.
you need to do the proxy lah.
Yeah.
So every file you need to convert to 720p to be able to work in whatever editing software you are running on. Then it should still work fine. But you will feel the your computer
Being a bit
pushing itself
sluggish,
lah. Yeah,
okay.
it will start to be a bit sluggish lah. Yeah, because even just now Nick was hearing me render some things. Even on my 2019 MacBook, right, at 422 100 frames per second, right, it was spinning like.
Yeah, the fan was louder than my icon. Yeah. So okay. I also want to quickly move to this footage because to be mindful of time.
Yep.
Okay. So this is the footage that we went to shoot together. I mean, we say shoot, but actually someone else was shooting it. But I just want to share this with you.
Hi, my name is Jordan, and I'm 23 this year. I've been skating for 8 years, and to me, skating is a passion of mine, and I feel like it's a very good form of exercise because it's like really cardiovascular, and you also get to hang out with your friends, so it's really a win-win. Yeah. And after skating, you can still have some beers with your friends, chill out. So it's a really good activity. I feel like more people should check it out. Don't be afraid of falling. Yeah. And actually, I'm also a skate coach, so I want to pass on this skating knowledge to the next generation, all those younger kids. Because when I first learned pick up skateboarding, it was quite hard for me actually. Because I had to do it on my own, with my friends, we just try to figure tricks out. So it was quite hard. So now when this like coaching program, we can teach the kids hands-on, show them their mistakes, so we can like give them feedback straight away so they can improve faster. Yeah.
Okay, so obviously what you're seeing is a lot low res because of compression, but if I can find how I can share screen while typing a message, I will share the link with you guys. I posted it on YouTube.
Hang on, maybe I share here.
Yeah. Okay, just give us 1 minute. Wow, basic. Claudio can go to YouTube. I think you search for "Hello, Mr. Camera," one word. One word.
Okay.
Then, yeah, then. Yes, correct. So this one.
Hi, my name is Jordan, and I'm 20. Okay.
Link. Okay, so Claudio will help share the link over here. Thank you. Thanks, man. For some reason, I cannot find my chat box over here. But these are the specifications that was shot in. I really wanted to do low light and high speed. And then I think when we bring this, when we shoot in log, when we bring this back into the post, the difference you can see 8-bit versus 10-bit, because a lot of times what was a bit crippling for me without using an external recorder was the 8-bit 420 in the A7S II. So that has always been something that I've always been struggling with, because it's not to say that 8-bit is unusable, but when you have situations when your dynamic range is so great, right? Bending will occur depending on where you favor anyway, because that's the difference between 8 and 10-bit. But no, I think I really like it. And in fact, I had to grade it a bit darker because it was quite bright. But noise is not there, and for those of you who can see, of course, the link, go watch the thing, watch it at Full HD. We shot it at 4K. I still, obviously, if I can share a 4K version, you can see that. But I'm happy with this, and the audio, the interview was recorded just from the built-in microphone. So it's safe to say, if something happens to your external microphone, touch wood, during a interview or something, this is good enough. Can you imagine how loud the skate park is? And it's basically just camera, lens, press record, and I was shocked by the audio quality. I mean, Claudio asked me, "You want to use the external mic?" I say, "No, let's just try and see how it is." I'm quite surprised that even as they improved the picture quality, they did not ignore that audio is also important to video.
Yes. So I was actually quite surprised, like, by the sound that you recorded. And to me, it didn't tweak much. It's just.
I didn't. I just level it to balance with the music.
That's all, right? You didn't like do any vocal enhancing or mastering,
right? I didn't do anything.
So that's why you can see, like, right out of the camera, the what do you call it? The footage itself and with the audio is actually very good, really. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Okay, so let's move on.
Guys, I know some of you are asking whether you can get some access to raw footages. Right? I think let us check with Sony as well whether it's possible.
No, I'm okay to share my raw footage if you guys want. You can put it up in the
we can put it up
Google
later.
Drive. We can just download for something.
And then you can play with it. I think there's also some links that later, maybe towards the end or through email, we can also share with you. Is that not just us, but also YouTubers. Some of them have also shared raw footages online for people to test as well. So there's actually raw footages available out there. So then you can actually play. But I think, Leona, you just want to see whether it runs on your computer lah. I mean, that's the most important thing.
No, I think people just want to see Singapore flavored raw footages, because really sometimes we think that the environment is very different.
Yes.
We're not used to the lighting, and then the way ambient
Correct.
atmosphere
And
is
then,
like
because I think Nick, you can see from the side screen, this was actually in S-Log 3, right?
which I never want to shoot in. As a filmmaker, I will tell my DP, please do not give me S-Log 3, S-Log 2 and stay there. So Clement, no, let's push it. Okay, we push it. Well, usable.
Yeah, so I think for a videographer myself, right, usually for a lot of social media or content work that we do, right,
You don't even shoot.
I shoot in Cine 2 or Cine 4 because you just need to do a very simple grading in post.
Right.
S-Log 2 on the previous cameras, right, because the base ISO was already 1600.
Yeah.
If you don't get lighting right, and you're going to shoot in a studio with not enough lighting, for example, right, then it's damn noisy.
Or too much lighting.
Yeah.
Then you cannot balance the
Cannot
shadows
balance,
and the
yes.
highlights. Yeah.
So that was a challenge. So I usually, in the previous generation of cameras, right, I hardly shot in S-Log 2 unless there was a request, like my editor said, hey, let's try lah, for S-Log 2, or my videographer for that, he's very used to S-Log 2. But some of my videographer friends who have shot in S-Log 2, they realize that in post, right, they end up spending a lot of time using plugins to correct the noise. Right, because S-Log 2 it became too noisy in the previous generation. But for this, right, you will see in the raw files, yes, there's noise, but it's very easily correctable in like post-production, like color grading and all that.
Actually, to me, it didn't feel like noise. It feels more like grain. It's more pleasing. Noise will be, if you have chroma noise, you will start to see like during shadow, mid-tone shadows area, it becomes like, wow, a lot of color and stuff. But what I really saw was, what I felt was more grain.
Yes.
More luma
Yes.
noise rather than chroma noise.
Yes.
So there is a big difference between what is luma and chroma noise. Luma obviously is more usable because you can just down it down. It's more pleasing. But chroma noise, once it's color, different colors all over the place, especially on skin, you don't want that.
Then it becomes like,
Yeah, especially when below the chin shadow, where it's not like not full shadow, half shadow. That's where the noise you can see very obvious. Yeah, so awesome. Okay, okay, cool. I think we move forward.
Roman asked, right, what's the solution you would recommend to convert 10-bit footage to ProRes for you to play on DaVinci free, like DaVinci Resolve?
Could you create proxies for the free version? Because I'm on the studio version, so I'm not very sure. If you can, in your timeline settings, do go down to the bottom. Timeline settings, somewhere at the bottom, they ask you if you want to optimize your footage to what flavor. You can choose like ProRes proxy, and then before you start your editing, right, you could select everything and then optimize footage before you start. So that actually helps a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think maybe the free version doesn't have it. So you're saying it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Free
We
version.
take this outside of, because this is not really
not really
resolved thing.
related.
Because
It's a
some,
resolved thing lah,
some people are also using Premiere and stuff, but we can.
Yeah, so I think different softwares like Premiere, Final Cut, they all have different ways of setting this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Roman, we got your question. We're just going to see how, because I think Nick and I are very used to the studio version.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about the chart. That
Yeah.
you talk about in terms of.
So this chart is actually from DP Review. Again, if you want to have a very technical review, like technical like specs and all that, right? Take a look at DP Review, or look at YouTuber Jared Undone. So he actually goes into this.
He really undid the camera.
Undid the whole camera, lah, right? Yeah. So if you see, right,
I'm only interested in the bottom. I think the top people are familiar. Look at the bottom. Look at the bottom last row.
Yeah. So if you see
600.
Yeah. If you want to shoot in really high bit rates, right, you see that you need the V90 card. If not, right, like this is back to Alfred's question, right? If not, you cannot really push the camera, right? You cannot push the camera. Why 600? Because this 60 frames per second, right, is already 600 megabits, Ours are 500 because Singapore we're using PAL a lot, right?
Yeah. So 500, 600.
It's 500, 600. It's very heavy. It's very heavy files for intra, right? So you need to have the correct memory cards. I would highly suggest, I believe Nick as well, is that if you're going to buy this camera, to invest in the CF Express Type A cards, because I think they can record any of these settings. You don't have to worry about this. S&Q, you will also record S&Q because even with the V90 cards, there's certain limitations to S&Q as well.
Yep.
So get the CF Type A Express cards, and later we'll show you some of the deals that when you pre-order, right, you can actually get the CF Type A Express cards at pretty good price, and not the full price at itself.
Right. Okay, I think we're a bit slow, the slides. Let's move a bit quicker from this point of time. I think this is quite clear we already went through this, what is the different flavors.
Maybe you just play this, then we talk over, I think 30 seconds only.
Yep, let's do that.
Is it playing? Oh yeah, it is, right? Yeah.
Yep.
So I mean, I went to the top of a HDB block and then shot this just to let you all see, like what's the difference, right? This is at 4K 50 frames, XAVCS, right? This is H.265, okay? But all is standard, so all this is not locked, right? This is in HS, H.265, and then finally you have it in Intra, right? H.264. Okay, right now it's in full. You can't really see the difference. But let's say what if we crop in?
Yes.
Right? Do you actually see a difference? Maybe on the compression here on Zoom, you may not be able to see it so clearly, but from my own on my own screen, right, what I saw was that the Intra one feels a tad bit sharper, that's all. So if you really don't need, how I would see it is that the Intra one, as well as H.265, right, if you are going to do a lot of movement shots, right, it will work very well because you capture more data. But if you're going to shoot stationary shots like this, right, doesn't matter, you can shoot at H.264.
Actually, I can see that the Intra is richer.
Yes.
It's more dense. It feels like there's a lot more information visually as well. It's denser.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but it's very heavy, the files. This 10-second clip is,
there's no free lunch.
Yeah, it's 700 megabits, 7 megabytes.
Okay.
So that's 10 seconds. Can you imagine if you record half an hour?
I'm perfectly happy at H.264 or H.265 at 100 megabits as a starting point for my raw footage. So that goes to show that it's basically future proofing in terms of 500. Like I think over the next 2 years, computers, the CPU processing will improve a lot quicker.
Definitely. I think the other thing that we can't show you here right now is I know some of you are asking, how about the 16-bit raw video, right? If you have an Atomos Ninja 5, I think Atomos is planning to update the external recorder towards the end of the year. And you will be able to, I think, record that raw video output file. But then again, you need the correct SSDs for that as well.
Yeah, that's always going to be challenging.
So then it's a whole issue or a whole new sort of purchase.
Yeah. So my advice right now for those of you guys who are looking to upgrade your camera at this point, waiting for the A7S III. I know a lot of people have been waiting for this camera. Out of the box, with the different combinations of flavors of codecs and bitrates, you are good to go. Really, because 422 10-bit at H.265, I believe this is the first camera.
Yes.
The other cameras that released for H.265 bitrate or codec were at 420. So there is a lot of a difference. So right now there are a lot more permutations depending on your needs. I think Claudio, you also agree, right? Depending on what sort of filmmaker or videographer you are, it's got it inside there already. You don't even need to think about the external recorder. This is not something that, like I said, what's the point of wanting to buy a small camera when you want to buy everything and build it up like a big camera? You might as well just buy that cinema camera to begin with.
So I think this is really good for like run and gun,
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on to the
final one.
Lock and color grading. I think you did a lot of examples.
Yeah.
We also talked a little bit about it, but let's look at the visual
I think
example.
the next video, the first video now you see, right?
Yeah. Second one.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think you see this video that I shot, right? It's all in S-Log2. S-Log Gamet, right? And then what I did here was that there's no real story, Basically, I created some music to make bubble tea sound very scary,
Because you haven't got bubble tea during circuit breaker, now it's.
So I was with my wife, and then we was like, okay, since our purpose was to test how it works without any professional lighting, right? Let's just shoot. And since she was going to buy bubble tea, I said, okay, I'm going to record you buying the bubble tea and walking around, right? But it's S-Log2, and then we shot at varying ISOs. I did not set ISO. I purposely want to set different ISO to let you see how it looks like at different ISO. So at the bottom right corner, you will see the ISO settings, and then later I have some screen grabs to show you, okay? So let's just play this.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think the first slide that you see next, we were talking about 16,000, right? So this is ISO 16,000. And if you look at the image, if you actually see the image, it's sharp and
Yeah.
pretty noise-free.
Yeah.
If you look at my wife Jack's hand, right, or her back, or the
Yeah,
foliage
basically,
behind, right?
where her palm is, that's supposed to be the noisy part.
Yeah, but it's clean. And okay, I did not add any codec, like plugin to like denoise it or anything. This is
Wow.
out of the camera. All I did was S-Log. I dial up the exposure and shadows and all that in correction. Then in color grader, I just pull, and I didn't really apply any loot as well, like just color wheel pulling and all that, just to let you see how it is. Right, so this is how it looks like raw, out of the camera at 16,000. It's clean at S-Log.
Wow.
And 1/200 some more, of shutter speed, right? So
So this is the challenging image. I think.
yeah. So you see, right, at the left-hand side is the log image, right? And I pull back already, right? What you'll be able to see is that she actually, when you pull back the exposure a bit and the shadows and all that, she still looks pretty okay, right? The skin does not like degenerate or anything like that. And then finally, when I apply a simple grid like this, right, just to make it a bit richer and darker, right, everything starts to fall into place. But of course, this light on her is from the screen itself, so she tends to be a bit red.
Right.
Yeah, so this is how you can see in terms of color grading. But you take note that I'm recording at 4K, 100 frames per second, and the bit rate is 280 megabits per second. So, like I said, right, you need to make sure you have enough memory space when you want to record at S-Log plus this sort of bit rate.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, and then final image is, you can see on the right hand side is the color corrected log image, and then left hand side is the color graded one, right?
Yeah.
So again, you see when I pull back the colors on the bin itself, right, clean at ISO 8000.
Yeah. I think where the reflective metal and where it's slightly a little bit at the edge is where usually you will find the noise.
Yep.
If there's any present, that's very difficult to work with. And it works.
Yeah, you will definitely see some grain at this sort of ISO, but once you like dial down the blacks and adjust the shadows according to your liking, adjust the color wheels and all that, right? The image is what you get on the left, and it's pretty clean and all that. Of course, you can apply the loots that you want to,
I think this is where the difference between a 422 versus a 420.
Yes.
Right. That this football formation. Everybody asks what's that. Okay. I'm just a joke, right? But 422 10-bit versus 420 10-bit, there is a very, very huge difference, not just in terms of the weightage or the size of the file, but where your mid-tones and your mid-tone shadows, where there's all going to be, you are going to get a lot less chroma noise.
Yeah.
Like I said, you start to see what you look like is grain. That's where Luma is, but because there's enough color information recorded at the final tool, a lot less guesswork is needed, and you are only dealing with the Luma.
Yeah.
So that's, for me, I'm so on 422 10-bit.
I find it hard to record videos on if you are a videographer per se, right, and you really want the control, right, I find it hard to go back to 420 8-bit.
No, 420 8-bit definitely not. I mean, really, my advice is, even if you are short on space, or you think because you don't want heavy files, you don't have enough storage, but I would encourage everyone to think forward. Moving forward, your older materials, or let's say computer and software improve, you can, just like how the JPEG and the RAW revolution, people who shot a lot more RAW. Today, with the new softwares, they could get a much better picture, final picture out of it. But then if you start off with a bit lackluster starting point, there's only so much you can do
push in the end.
Yeah. So if you are shooting a lot of stock, for example, stock is a good way to generate revenue right now. Stock videos, especially when people cannot travel to shoot, they want to buy of local. Try to really think about at least capturing 422 10-bit or H.264, or at least even 422 8-bit if there's such an option. Yeah, but not 420 8-bit for sure. 10-bit at least, because that's 1024 steps versus 256 steps. That's 4 times more steps.
Yes.
So we need that. Yeah.
The data is just amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we keep our questions coming.
Yeah.
We'll address some of them.
Yeah, I think we're almost
at the end already.
yeah, additional thoughts. We can move on to
Okay.
this something that you discover.
Yeah, so I think that with the ZV-1, those of you who take notice of that, right? If you know, there's actually this software called Catalyst Browse, which you can actually download for free from the Sony website. Okay, basically, right, you know, in whatever software you have, Premiere, DaVinci, you know, Resolve, Final Cut, Avid, whatever, right, that you use, right? If you put in the files into it, there's only so much data that the software will tell you. But let's see, how did I get all my data for all those videos that I shared?
You never record on.
I never record on paper, right? But basically, if you open in Catalyst Browse, you can see all the data, up to even the information like what focal length did I shoot at.
Who were you with?
Maybe not that lah, but I think if you on your geo data for photos, right, you can see also.
Yeah.
So it's like I would say a Lightroom or Capture Pro 1 for videos, you know, that sort of thing, because you also can edit things inside as well.
And this is for video, not for photo.
You can put in photos also.
Of course, photo we know you
Yeah,
cannot.
but this is for the video stuff. Yeah, so it's pretty amazing. You can, like I say here, this is the Catalyst Browse. You can just go to the Sony page and download, right? One thing that really changed the game with the ZV-1, this is also available on the FX9, which is the more like the Cine line of cameras, right? And now it comes to the A7, the Alpha line with the A7S III, which is called Gyroscope Stabilization, right? So basically, this what it means, right, is that is using sort of inbuilt camera data, like the knowledge of how much you shake and all that, right? And then in post, right, when you bring it to this software, Catalyst Browse, right, it helps you stabilize the thing accordingly.
It sounds a bit like AI.
A bit like AI. And it's results-wise, if you go and see some of the vloggers that actually tested out with the ZV-1, as well as Brandon Lee has tested out with the S3 as well, the footage is actually pretty good. And I have an example. Just now, over the weekend, I shot with my wife as well. I was handheld. I didn't want any gimbal, right? So I just handheld and walked. It actually turned out quite well. And just to show you how it works on the vlog later, I'll show you some footage here as well, right? So this is how it looks in the software. If you see, right, on the left-hand side, right, is it straight out the camera, right? On the right-hand side, it's cropped in a bit because, of course, it has a bit of data it needs to crop in, right? So then, with that crop in, right, it reduces the amount of shake. And it does not have the issue that appears in warp stabilization. Right. So if you look at the next one, right, this is me in Nick's studio actually. So I really want to show you all how it looks like, because I realized that I didn't.
Well, this camera very slimming.
It's the 1635 GM lah, right? So it makes me look very slim, right? But actually I'm not so slim lah, right? So this is just with active stabilization. So right now in the S3, right, if we just play the video, right, you have a few different modes of stabilization. Right, so this is 50 frames lah. The output is 25 frames per second lah. Okay, quite smooth lah, right? For active stabilization, because you have standard stabilization. You have active crops in a bit, but it's even more stabilized than standard, right? And then you have off, of course, so no stabilization, right? So this is active stabilization.
It's doing my studio demo.
Yeah. Now this is Catalyst. Can you realize that it's a bit more stable? It crops in a bit.
It crops in a bit,
but it's more stable now.
It was already very stable before.
Yeah, but it's even more stable. So right after this, right, I think 1 or 2 more seconds, you will see a side by side, a comparison of how stable it is, right? So let's see. Okay, you can see the difference, like the way it warps accordingly if it's on active stabilization.
I think what it really affects is the edge of the side, outside of the main subject.
Yeah. So it looks more stabilized. Of course, you need to make, and the cropping, right, you can actually adjust.
So it's not a fixed crop.
It's not a fixed crop. You can adjust it accordingly. This was, I wanted to show you, I didn't adjust. I just, straight away, I put it and output it out of Catalyst Browse. And this is what I gain. But you can make it less crop or more crop, you know, depending on how you want. Right? Okay. So it's pretty useful. I suggest all
software is free, right?
Free. So if some of you maybe already got the ZV-1, right, you may want to test it out. But when you get S3, I suggest doing some handheld shots and testing this.
Is it only limited to the newer cameras?
Yes. This gyroscope thing, gyro stabilization, is only available for the ZV-1, FX9, and the A7S III.
So I assume you try to put footage from the older series.
Yeah, so you will see this icon that appears on the in Catalyst Browse, whether it has gyroscopic data.
Ah, okay. So it's the gyroscopic data inside the file that allows it. Okay. Cool. Awesome. Right. So where
to
are
the
we?
end,
We're
yeah.
coming to the end quickly. Thank you for bear with us.
Yeah, I think what we wanted to say here is that looking from our experience, right? I think it's pretty. This camera is great for like small to mid scale productions. I would see. I don't know about Nick, but I can see it very popular among content creators, uh, as well as maybe small production houses. You know, like certain times we don't need a big camera to do certain sort of ads or whatnot, right? This could possibly be quite good for this usage, or even independent documentary makers.
I really think that cameras are like they're like soy sauce, right? Different people like different brands of soy sauce, and I think if you ask me if this is what should this camera be positioned for, I can tell you that out of the box, it is really a camera that is capable without even the fancy rigging up.
That you see here in this picture. Yeah.
Especially the stabilization, the active ones.
Yep.
That means your gimbal option is you don't always need a gimbal.
Yes, you don't know always need.
That's number one. 422, 10-bit, you don't need external recorder.
Yeah.
And maybe this opens up opportunity for you to be a lot more creative. Of course, external audio, if you don't have, can you still use it
I mean,
as
for
a
example,
recorder?
it's quite good, right?
It was, yeah. I mean, for those of you who went to the YouTube channel to watch, let me know what you think of the audio. For me, I think that if you're building a camera for production or making decisions out of the box, great starting point. Everything else you add to it just increases the value of the production.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not like there's some cameras, perhaps that like some soy sauce. It's not sweet enough. It's not salty enough. It's not umami enough. You need to add more things. But I think this is where the sweet spot really is. And of course, low light 422 10-bit and 100 frames 4K. I know a lot of people are saying, but everybody is releasing 6K, 8, 10, 12, 16K cameras. But I don't think that's important. The reality is it needs to fit in a workflow. And I think 4K delivery is still going to be around for the next 2 or 3 years.
Yes.
People are still delivering. I'm still delivering Full HD only.
Yeah. I mean, for
agency, any client for 4K.
like advertising, even when we do ads, like right now I'm editing one ad actually. It's in HD.
Yeah.
I mean, the footage could be shot in 4K. Yeah.
I always shoot in 4K. I've been shooting in 4K since 2014.
Yeah. See. Yeah.
So means my footage, if I need to pull back archives from 2014, it's been 4K.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So but the output still a lot of times we still output in 1080, right?
Yeah. Because it allows us to have an additional angle for punching in. So capture at the highest possible you can based on your own resource, and then like I said, if you buy a camera now, it's not going to be something you want to actively think you want to replace in 8 months. Ideally the next 24 months is you got it covered. And for the next question will be for hybrid shooters. What do you think as a hybrid shooter?
So I think this question came up a lot in the list of questions. It
Yes.
came up multiple times, right? Is it good for hybrid shooters? So I'll give you a very honest opinion, right? Even though I've been shooting Sony for quite some time, if you are a hybrid shooter, like you really do a lot of photos as well, then the A7 III may be the camera for you, not the S3, right? Because if you want the flexibility of files that can be printed,
Because there's how many megapixels?
this is 12 megapixel only.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you want files to be printed, for example, or you want to have more leeway in photography to crop in and whatnot, right? Then the A7 III would be a
I think 24 is what you need as
Yes,
a
as a
professional starting point.
as a photographer.
As a photographer, 24 minimum.
So that's the way I would say. If you are a professional videographer or you are someone who's looking to use the camera mainly for videography, right? Then
And an occasional photo.
and the occasional photo, and to be honest, it's great in low light photos. But if you're occasionally doing photos, but your main job or your main motive of hobby is to shoot videos, right? Then I would say that the S3 is perfect. So for example, like me, right? I would still carry with me if I'm going to shoot photos, A7 III, or even usually I bring my A9 with me most of the time. Then I'll have a S camera as well for video lah, right? But if you want to go light, right, and then one camera to rule them all, right, like for both, right, then the A7 III will be a good starting point for you.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
for hybrid shooters. But I would highly suggest once this camera is in the stores, whether you pre-order or not, go and test it out, man. Go and test it out.
Yeah. Bring your cards. Bring the V90 cards. Do some footage testing. Bring it back. Work with it in the post-production environment. What your workflow is. You can then decide for yourself. I think I'm cool to share the footage that we shot.
Yep.
A couple of them to let you at least see, so that you can actually have in advance before you can go to the stores. I'm not sure if they're going to have enough sample copies to be in the store or demo copies, because I think this camera is flying off the
shelves.
the production line that don't have time to reach a shelf.
Yeah. So I think in the news it came out, right? The ZV-1 is sold out now or something.
No, I'm trying to get my hands on a ZV-1. Yeah, but another talk altogether. But maybe we can take some of the questions before we go to the final part. I think Brandon was asking, will external recorder help with the heat? I think the answer is perhaps yes and no, because the sensor is still doing its job. It may not need to be recording internally, and then a lot of times it's just a sensor reading and then sending to the recorder.
Yes.
But don't forget that the external recorder also will produce heat.
Yes.
No one really knows for now how it will take the 16 beat at this point of time. And external recorders means external batteries and
External storage as well.
external storage, so it all adds up. So I think they've done quite a good job. I don't know what brand the aircon is inside the A7S III, but the cooling is sufficient.
So like I said, I went to the park, right, for about 17 minutes, but it was fine. I mean, at 4K, 100 frames per second. I mean, it got a bit hot lah. I wouldn't
Hot
deny.
was sure hot lah.
Hot lah, right? But it did not. There was no warning for me.
Yeah, I think everybody is trying to see if that warning came up. Just like you saw the warning, I think what's important is that for me, camera manufacturers set a very low tolerance in terms of it going faulty, which means what it means in engineering terms is basically before it even reaches a certain level, it warns you, because that means your equipment can last a lot longer.
Yes.
Yeah. And there are some camera brands that will push the hardware to its limit and then don't give you any warning, and then it just shut off.
Yeah.
And then that is very dangerous if it's at work, mission critical. If your hobby is doing experiments, it's fine, but not when you're
On set.
On set.
Yeah.
Because you can't have that screw up. So I think this is definitely capable. It's past our real production test. No, we will not talk about Sony versus the other brands of video, because I said it's basically soy sauce flavors.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some people like the colors that Sony produce. Some people like what Canon produce.
What other brands produce per se.
Yeah. So, but that will lead us to the next camera about the color science. It's a lot more pleasing after I put it in film convert. That's my workflow for me, compared to the previous A7S II, which I primarily shot.
Same thing.
For
The
you.
moment when I look at the standard color profile, like what Brandon Lee was talking about, right?
Yeah.
If you look at those images that I took of my wife, right? I didn't even tweak it. I didn't even pull shadows or anything. It looks great out of camera already.
So you're satisfied with what comes out of camera, right?
yeah.
So there's a change for sure, right?
definitely, because like last time, if I shoot in standard, right, maybe I still want to tweak a bit.
Yeah.
Because I feel like the greens, for example, like not very pleasing to the eye sometimes. So I may tweak it a bit, but this time it's like out of the camera, I was like, wow, looks great, man.
Yeah. Also, caveat, I need to tell you that there is no. Oh, sorry, my red mark delivery is here. But can you get someone to?
Ying Tong?
Yeah. Sorry, my red mark delivery.
Yeah, sorry
Funny.
guys.
Yeah. So because of workshop, we need to do online delivery. But sorry, coming back to this. Where was I? So distracted already.
No, about the color.
Okay, there is no LUT that's available, or there's no picture profile from film cover or camera profile for the A7S III, because the camera just launched. So for that matter, I use the A7S II camera profiles, and of course it's not spot on, but it's not too far off, which means can this camera match? If you have a new A7S III,
Yeah.
can it match your S2? Answer is yes. for me, I had to bring it back because it was a bit more bluish. So, which means that by itself, there's a little bit of a tint and the color shift. But by and large, the two cameras will match quite well.
Yep.
And that's safe for you to know, because if you're doing multi-camera shoots, right, and you don't change all your cameras at once, you're adding a new camera
Yeah.
to your existing kit, right? At least you know that it's not going to be a pain to match colors.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
But if those of you who are used to matching colors, right, then it shouldn't be too much of an issue for you.
Yeah.
I know some of you ask, is the Catalyst paid version? No, you don't need the paid version. The free version has the stabilization already. If you run your footage with Catalyst stabilization, you really need to render it out. Yes, you need to render it out. And you can render at the same bitrate as what was shot in as well. Will it output the data and can be used directly in Premiere? Yes, you can. It's basically another MP4 file that you are able to use in Premiere and what other software that you have, basically, it's just a corrected file of that same codec. You can actually change the codec if you want to, but for the example I showed you earlier, I did not change anything. Yeah.
Right. Okay. I think pretty much quite last two slides already. I think we've spoken a lot. We learned a lot about the camera. We hope you managed to also get a lot of insights from our sharing. And sorry, this is
so
yeah
if you
available for pre-order. So okay.
Yeah. So if
for a while I read it was only available until 30th, but it's pre-order available until 30th September.
So if you see that QR code on the left-hand side of your screens, right, you can actually take your phone and scan it and whatnot, and you bring it to a special link for Cathay Photo, and then what you can do is you can register your interest there, and you can actually put a deposit for the camera itself. So when it launches, right, Cathay will alert you, let you know that the camera is ready for collection.
And then there's a promotion as well, not just direct.
Yeah.
Okay,
so these are with the lenses.
Okay, purchase with purchase.
Yeah.
And a free extra battery. Okay, so everybody needs an extra battery for sure.
Yeah, so you have the extra battery. I think what is at the bottom you can see is that with the 1635 as well as the 2470G Master, that comes with a purchase scheme as well as the 24105 and the new 21.8G lens. But what will interest you is the new Type CF Express Type A cards,
CA,
right?
Yeah.
So if you see the original price for the 80 gig one, right, it's actually 279 if you're going to buy it right off the shelf, right? But if you purchase right now, it's going to be 199, which is actually an $80 saving, right? So I highly suggest if you're going to buy the A7S III, right, to actually purchase the CF Express Type A cards as well. I would highly suggest getting the 160 gig one and get two of them because you will need enough space, but that will set you back about $800. So you need to park aside that sort of budget when you're purchasing this camera. And also to read the CFE Type Express cards, right, you need the new reader as well. So that's the reader that comes and it's at $159.
Right. Okay. Last slide. More purchase offers.
Yeah. So I think if you purchase a PWP with Cathay Photo, right, you can actually get the new DT D4 Dual mic at $99, the original price at $119.
Which is the microphone that I'm using now for our session, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, it's a great microphone. I'm not sure if I can say that, but it's a great, it's great from the audio, as well as the Manphoto tripod, the three-way tripod for Alpha, for the Sony Alpha line. So this actually, together with Sony and Manphoto, they came out with this tripod. So you see in Alpha colors as well.
Yeah. Okay. So it's matching. I mean,
it's matching.
This promotion is only specifically exclusive to Cathay Photo, which is one of the partners for this workshop that we're doing. So we are very excited to be able to do this with Sony as well as Cathay Photo. So thank you very much for this opportunity. We will still take some questions, and for in the essence of time, I'm sorry we went off a little bit more, but I think there was just so much to share.
Cover, I know we're about 20 minutes over, but I think we wanted to make sure that you get the most out of this and help in your purchasing decision. Even though you may say, be Alpha, I'm an Alpha representative, or I really love Sony, right? But I wanted to give you my honest opinion. And truth is, I really enjoyed the camera. I believe Nick, as well as a filmmaker, he has enjoyed using it as well. So if you have any questions, right, we have another about, I would say, 5 minutes more, 3 to 5 minutes more. You can type them out, and we will answer them accordingly.
Yeah.
Uh,
And by the way, the Cathay folks are here. They're hiding. So if you have any purchase inquiries, you can just message them, or I mean, I'm sure you know where to find them, so don't worry about that. So, but they can answer better whether you can only buy 1 CEA or you can buy 10 CEA at the price. They can tell you. And also, I think there's some Sony people here as well. If you need to ask questions that are beyond us, I apologize, because there are a lot of stuff that we may be under the camera. We're here, we can share what we experience when we use the camera to shoot something, but they are also here, so just ask away.
Yeah. I think Roman asked small feature for change of color balance to be smoother.
Okay, wait. Number one, Romain, please do not shoot in AWB. Never shoot anything in AWB, because you don't know what the WB is.
So, to be honest, right, Nick, I think the shots that I shot for my wife, right, the bubble tea was AWB, but the other videos I shot in my custom white balance. The reason why I shot AWB, right, was to show you how it is, But the fact is that I think, okay, this is just me. I can't confirm it, but the AWB seems to be better.
No, every AWB every generation will bring out better AWB.
Yeah.
This is what the engineers have been trying to solve. But again, I feel that it's very risky.
Yes. So the part where I walk under the light, right, the red color.
It changed, right?
It changed a bit.
Yeah.
So that's something that AWB still has,
Yeah. I can deal with AWB for photography.
Yeah.
Because it's one frame.
Yeah. So what would your recommendation be to Romain if he wants to make sure that his white balance is correct in post?
Okay, so what I've resorted to think about is, if you know your light source temperature is daylight.
Yeah.
5600, because you're shooting with lights.
Yes.
5600, 5500. If you're shooting in tungsten 32 or 2700, but let's just say you're doing mixed environment, you're not really entirely sure. I came out with this formula long time ago.
It's a good formula, by the way. I follow his formula.
Yeah, 3200 plus 5600 is how many? Is 8800.
That's not very good.
You divide by 2, so you end up to be about 4400, which is why a lot of video centric cameras have a white balance at 4000K. So that gives you up and down to actually correct, not too far away. Means you don't have to do a drastic shift, because what you want to preserve are skin tone representations. Yeah. So again, AWB for photo is quite okay, because it's a single frame, you can always tune. But AWB for video is sometimes in between the same clip. Some frames are different white balance allocation, so that becomes dangerous.
If you are shooting professionally for content creation or in a set or whatever, I would highly suggest going with custom white balance. If you are run and gunning, right, certain times I know it can be challenging to set white balance every time at a different location.
Then set at 4400.
Yes, you can set it at like what Nick recommended. If you are traveling as well, you can set it at that. Just make sure that if you don't want to have the annoyance of doing a lot of custom white balance shift, right, or correction in post, right, you need to set it at a particular white balance. But if you're not too particular and you're just running and gunning, right, the white balance now, the AWB is actually getting better. So I think we have to give that to the newer cameras as well.
Yeah. Any annoyances?
Annoyances, Nick?
I think ever since the new FZ battery, the annoyance, my annoyances with the older generation was really the little small batteries that I. But ever since they swapped to the new ones, I think that has been quite highly corrected. That's A7 III onwards is also using.
Yes, correct. For me, annoyances, I don't have. I think the only thing was that I think annoyance when I'm going back to the previous generation.
Okay, annoyances is now if you have a chance to use the A7S III, the menu and the touchscreen, and then you use.
Yes. So I went out yesterday. I went out for a photo shoot. Okay, and not yesterday, I think, or on Sunday, sorry. And then what I realized is that because I brought my A9 out, and then I end up keep touching the screen to change the
And then
menu.
that's cannot do right.
But I realized that, oh shit, I'm not on the S3, right? I'm with the A9, right? So I'm like, oh, okay, I need to use the joystick again to like move the menu. But then again, you can touch the focus.
Yeah.
So right now, everything can be touched on the camera, on the camera screen itself. So then it feels a bit more seamless in terms of the entire camera usage.
I think because now we are so used to the smartphones and tablets and touching screens, second nature, you see a screen, you touch. I think kids today as well, young kids, when they see a screen, they will touch. So the intuitiveness, hopefully from this camera onwards, the rest of the new releases coming out will follow the same menu structure, which I believe there's no reason not to, because I don't think there are many people complaining that that doesn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think they have questions for Sony, but we let them.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Please give us the new menus for the previous generation.
That's why we cannot comment anything, right? So
we also request really.
okay, so I think we have the last question now. Currently using the A7S II FW50 battery, lasts 2 to 3 hours. Not sure about the. Okay, so the batteries last way longer.
Yeah.
Way longer. Also, we need to know what settings you're shooting in as well, because if this is just from my previous experience of being an event videographer with the S2 about 3-4 years ago, right? Or even weddings, right? Wedding videographers that used to shoot with the S2, right, tends to run through 8 batteries a day if they're going to run and gun with the couple, right? With this, right, actually with the F50 batteries, okay, even with the A7 III, right, I tend to only go through maybe max 3 batteries,
Right.
half the amount of batteries that change.
Maybe that's why it's 50 and then 100.
Correct, right? So I think that's something. If you're going to change, right, I think you need to upgrade everything as well, in terms of your batteries,
I mean, you can't use the old battery with the new camera.
Cannot. Yeah. Any more questions, guys? If not, we are going to end off the session with just saying that if you are interested in the A7S III, please check out the link that we shared earlier here. You can go to Cathay's website and then make your pre-order. But I hope that our session was insightful for you. I think Nick and I will probably try and see whether we can share some of the raw footages for you to test on your own computers. But in the meanwhile, I also highly suggest to go and see some of the YouTubers as well, because some of them have shared also their raw images or raw video files, and you will also play. But I think why you want it from us, because ours is shot in Singapore, local context.
Yes,
right?
our son is different son. Yeah. But okay, so thank you very much. Romain, thank you. You rock too. You guys all rock. Thank you for spending so much time with us.
Yeah.
And your precious evening time.
Yeah.
We hope that we've managed to give you as much as we can.
Yes.
When there is a demo unit out in
In the
Cathay,
stores,
make sure you go down.
Yeah.
Nothing beats bringing your SD card, shoot some test footage, bring it home, test it in a workflow, especially for video, before you make that plunge. But bear in mind that the promotion is only up to the end of September.
Yes.
So you can check with Cathay. And then for the menu, please go and bug the Sony people.
Yeah, I think the last thing is if you're interested to find out more about the Alpha cameras, we also have the Alpha Universe Facebook page.
Yes.
So you can go on Facebook and search for Alpha Universe Singapore. That's where all the Sony shooters are. In the meanwhile, if you want to ask any further questions, right, you can also look for Hello Mr. Camera, which is Nick's Facebook and YouTube page, or you can look for me at Claudio Chock on Facebook, Instagram.
Yeah.
We are more than happy to answer more of your queries.
In fact, we are dying to have more video-centric Sony Alpha users to be inside the Alpha Universe
Facebook group.
Yeah, because only when people start asking questions and we exchange information, then the community can
Learn
improve.
together about video.
Yeah. So the first thing you want to do is go to Facebook, join that group, and then let's continue the question and answer. We're happy to continue. But in the meantime, thank you and have a safe evening.
Wednesday evening.
Yeah, and it's time for our dinner.
Okay.
Okay. See you guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Yeah, I'll share the Facebook group.